This week on ANN, former Executive Secretary for the North American Division, Roscoe Howard, passes to his rest.
Adventists are set to help after a dam breaks in Brazil.
And students from Montemorelos University do extreme mission in northern Mexico.
These stories and more coming up.
Thank you so much for joining us this week.
Roscoe J. Howard, former North American Division Executive Secretary, passed away in Apopka, Florida on January 21 after a struggle with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, better known as ALS. He was 64.
Howard was working as Vice President for Missions for Adventist Health Systems, now Advent Health, when, in 2015, he was diagnosed with ALS, a progressive nervous system disease that weakens muscles and impacts physical function.
Howard began his ministry as the pastor of a two-church district in Oak Harbor, Washington. An African-American pastoring two Caucasian congregations was almost unheard of 40 years ago.
The North Pacific Union Conference called him to the union to serve as the youth director and vice president of regional affairs. His next shaping came through the ministerial assignments that carried him from the West Coast across the country to the East Coast.
The Mid-America Union called Howard to serve as the executive secretary of its territory. As he continued to grow and demonstrate his administrative prowess, the Adventist Church in North America asked him to serve as the executive secretary for the division. Having served for the capacity of over several years, the Mid-America Union Executive Committee took a surprising step and asked Howard to return to its field and to serve as the president.
Howard served as president of Mid-America Union for a relatively short period of time when he was asked by Adventist Health System to serve as vice president for spiritual wellness. He accepted that call in late December 2010 and served with distinction, dignity, and creativity until he was struck with ALS.
In a statement from the president of the Seventh-day Adventist World Church, Ted N.C. Wilson, he said, "On behalf of the World Seventh-day Adventist Church family, we offer our Christian sympathy and condolences to Mrs. Osceola Howard, Heather, Seth, and the extended Howard family on the death of Pastor Roscoe J. Howard. I have prayed for the family and encourage you to lift them up in your prayers. May the Comforter come especially close to the family as we look forward to Christ's soon return, when he will provide us with eternal youth and life. Even so, come, Lord Jesus."
Howard is survived by his wife Osceola and children Heather and Seth. A memorial service is scheduled for the 10 a.m. on Sunday, February 10, 2019 at the Forest Lake Seventh-day Adventist Church in Apopka, Florida.
The Adventist Church's headquarters in the central region of Minas Gerais is mobilizing to serve those who were impacted after a dam broke, leaving 9 people dead and hundreds missing. The Adventist leadership in the region is encouraging members to pray for the victims and the city. A group from the Adventist Church in the region went to pray with the families of those who had died. According to the Youth and Pathfinder Ministries directors for the region, they have also received guidelines to collaborate with food distribution. On January 26, members are being asked to bring clothes and water to be donated to the victims. In partnership with the Adventist Development and Relief Agency in Minas Gerais, food will also be delivered to families. Teams from ADRA, which specializes in emergency response, will visit with local authorities to identify key needs and address new ones as they arise. In addition to what has been collected by the churches, ADRA Minas Gerais is collecting personal hygiene, cleaning, and garbage bags. For more information, visit noticias.adventistas.org.
Nearly 50 students, teachers, medical staff, and volunteers from Montemorelos University recently visited several indigenous communities in the mountainous regions in the state of Chihuahua in North Mexico. The group shared hope and gave out toys, blankets, clothing, Bible, books, and solar radios. The 300 solar radios or God Pods included Bible study lessons, songs, and programs in the Ramuris native language and were donated by Adventist World Radio. In addition, free medical and ophthalmological services were offered to dozens of families. This is the second time that the mountainous region has been visited by university students since 2007. This time, the focus was also on teaching values to children, repairing Adventist churches, and providing blankets and clothing for families. Booklets highlighting 10 values, especially designed by students enrolled in the Visual Communication Design degree, were prepared for the 3 grade levels ages 4 through 7, 8 through 10, and 11 through 13 years old. As part of the missionary project, students and faculty of the architecture program assessed 3 Adventist church buildings 3 months before the mission trip. Organizers said the extreme mission Sierra Tarahumara represented a large investment of funds, logistics, and attention to the community thanks to donations by more than 100 persons and organizations. In all, more than 2,000 people benefited from the initiative. About 700 blankets, 200 toys, and 1,000 pairs of shoes were distributed, as well as gloves and scarves.
More than 200 Indigenous Australians gathered together in Victor Harbor, South Australia for the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Ministries, or ATSIM, National Camp. The event was held at the Adar Uniting Camp and Caravan site. Each of the evening programs featured a slideshow of historic photos showcasing the different regions where ATSIM has been working over the past 40 years. While some of the focus was on the past, the camp also provided encouraging signs for the future. Church leadership also showed their strong support of ATSIM at the camp. Pastor Jorge Munoz, president of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Australia, was featured as the adult speaker, and South Australian Conference President Pastor David Butcher opened the camp and delivered the final message on Sunday. Testimonies featured heavily throughout the weekend as those who have seen their lives changed were given many opportunities to stand up and share how it had happened. Testimonies of healing from serious illnesses, freedom from addiction, and faithfulness were also shared. ATSIM National Camp wasn't just for adults. A range of children's divisions were run, from tiny tots to youth, with their own speakers and activities. The ATSIM National Camp is held every 3 years. For more information, visit record.adventistchurch.com.
The United States federal government shutdown at the end of 2018 and starting in 2019 stopped the paychecks of 800,000 federal government employees. Seventh-day Adventists in the region are working to lessen the blow. After hearing of increased reports of federal workers struggling to feed their families, staff at Adventist Community Services of Greater Washington hosted a pop-up pantry for furloughed workers where they shared food with those in need. On January 25, the President of the United States signed a deal to reopen the United States government for 21 days.
More than 600 ministry leaders gathered in Albuquerque, New Mexico on January 13 to 16, 2019 for the Stronger United, Many Voices, One Vision Adventist Ministries Convention.
Conference, union, and division ministry partners came together to inspire, educate, and renew church ministry leaders across North American Division, or NAD, through daily devotionals, special music, church resource exhibits, TED Talk style presentations, breakout sessions, and awards given to individuals for ministry achievement.
NAD ministry directors hosted intentionally cooperative breakout sessions planned, according to organizers, to ensure that the spirit of collaboration is evident in each of the NAD core values through the breakout sessions. Regardless of the ministry they represent, attendees were encouraged to join breakout sessions they felt would help discover best practices relevant for their ministry.
The 8 core value concentrations included alignment within the church, connecting effectively within our diverse church family, community outreach and evangelism, connected with our communities, sharing hope and wholeness, digital ministries, the gateway to transformation evangelism, education for discipleship, every youth and adult learning, growing, and becoming more like Christ, freedom of conscience, focus on protecting the rights and freedoms of society's most vulnerable and overlooked, healthy leadership and management, God's stewards insisting on personal and church-wide excellence, revival and transformation, connecting with God through public and personal worship, and stewardship, inspire God's people to fund the message of hope and wholeness.
The opening keynote address was delivered by G. Alexander Bryant, Executive Secretary of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in North America. Bryant's presentation, titled "A Diverse People Shaped by a Diverse God," drew from the example of God, who demonstrates the power and strength of unity through presenting himself as God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit.
Through its mission statement, the NAD has committed to reach North America and the whole world with distinctive, Christ-centered, Seventh-day Adventist message of hope and wholeness.
Organizers shared in convention materials that, although the areas of concentration in ministry are essential, ministries operating with the silo mentality have become the new normal. Spreading the gospel is too important to continue with this as our new normal.
As attendees prepared to leave the meeting hall, the convention closed with a group of NAD leaders and church members with a rich diversity of age, race, gender, and profession, reading aloud from the passage from 1 Corinthians 12, verse 12 to 27 on unity and diversity in the church.
The NED Ministries Conference was an enormous event, and we couldn't cover it in just one news story. For more information and stories from the conference, visit nedadventist.org.
Coming up, the largest camporee the Adventist Church has ever seen has wrapped up.
But up next, Maranatha helps build schools all over the world. Today, they share a story from India.
Welcome back.
Over the past 50 years, the mission of Maranatha volunteers has been to build communities of faith through the constructions of churches and schools.
Maranatha sent this report of their work in India.
Over the past 50 years, the mission of Maranatha Volunteers International has been to build communities of faith through the construction of churches and schools. And one of Maranatha's major countries of focus is India. In 1998, Maranatha established a permanent presence in India to respond to an overwhelming need for places of worship. The first churches were built in the northern part of the country. Over the past 20 years, Maranatha's work has spread all over India, with more than 1,700 churches constructed. Beyond places of worship, the Seventh-day Adventist Church in India is spreading the gospel in non-Christian communities by offering quality education at Adventist schools. One of the earliest Adventist schools was founded outside of the city of Ranchi in the state of Jharkhand. For more than 80 years, the Kunti Adventist School has educated thousands of students. The campus has grown from a single building to a sprawling 37-acre property with classrooms for elementary and high school students, dormitories, a cafeteria, and staff housing. The school is thriving with an enrollment of more than 1,300 students, but 8 decades of use have taken their toll on the infrastructure. Currently, elementary students are scattered in buildings across campus. Classrooms are crowded, and the facilities are showing their age. The school also lacks proper space for assemblies and worship. Children meet in the cafeteria, but there isn't enough space for everyone to sit, and some have to stand in the back. Constantly reconfiguring the space is a taxing exercise. In February of 2018, Maranatha visited the Kunti school to evaluate the needs. During that meeting, Maranatha committed to constructing an education and evangelism center on the Kunti campus. The news was an answer to prayer. This will be the 6th education and evangelism center Maranatha has constructed in India. But over the last 25 years, they have constructed more than 100 all over the world. The large building at Kunti will have 12 classrooms. This will allow the elementary students to move out of their crumbling classrooms all over the campus and study under one roof. The structure will also include a spacious auditorium for worship and assemblies. Students will no longer have to meet outdoors or stand due to a lack of space. The construction of this school is just a continuation of Maranatha's effort to promote Christian education in India. For 20 years, Maranatha has been investing in children by building schools all over the country. Thousands of children have been able to move out of dark, dingy spaces and into light, bright classrooms. Intense sun and pouring rain are no longer factors as they have enclosed spaces to meet, worship, and play. To learn more about Maranatha's work around the world, visit Maranatha's website at maranatha.org.
Last week, the South American Division wrapped up one of the largest camporees the Adventist Church has ever seen. More than 100,000 people gathered over 2 weeks outside of Sao Paulo, Brazil. During the camporee, Pathfinders passed out more than 100,000 books, had a museum set up, did outreach to the communities surrounding them, and even had a stamp dedicated in their honor. If you'd like to read more stories and see more video packages, please head over to noticias.adventistas.org to see their complete coverage of the camporee. In the meantime, the South American Division sent this report.
January 22 marks a special day for the Adventist Church in Battambang, Cambodia, as the congregation celebrated the inauguration of its first center of influence.
The Battambang Essential Life Center officially opened its doors to the community after its inauguration and prayer dedication.
Southern Asia Pacific Division President Saw Samuel led the opening along with other division administrators.
The Adventist Church in Cambodia, alongside its workers and local church members, also expressed their support and excitement to finally see the center become a reality.
During the inauguration, international service employees were also dedicated. They will continue ministry in Cambodia and in the new Center of Influence. The center's main goal are to offer health services, share new and essential health information, serve as a language school, and help young musicians learn about their craft.
The Center of Influence is situated in the second most highly populated city in Cambodia and will be open for service to thousands of people in the city.
Currently, missionary volunteers of the Battambang Essential Life Center are conducting free medical services to the community and are preparing for vacation school for its students.
Coming up, Victoria Turrentine is here to share how you can volunteer to be a missionary.
But up next, Adventist Mission has more on Global Youth Day.
We may look, pray, read, think, worship, sing, and share differently, but we all look forward to the Sabbath. And we all look forward to the future when Jesus will come again. With this message in mind, we arrived at a core component for a new identity system, the creation grid, a simple 7-column structure for layout. The grid is a reference both to the prophetic timeline as well as to the creation week that culminated in the 7th-day Sabbath. The first 6 columns of the grid belong to the designer. They can be filled with anything: text, images, illustrations, patterns, and logos. But the 7th column, the Sabbath column, does not belong to them. It is meant to be different and special. Regardless of what or where you are designing, you can always find information to help you communicate that we are all Seventh-day Adventists.
Welcome back.
Global Youth Day is a day where young people miss one sermon to become the sermon.
Let's see how youth around the world are becoming the sermon.
Adventist Mission has more.
Last year, we had over 150 million impressions on social media. Now that's big. because Global Youth Day is the biggest event that the Seventh Adventist Church has.
You see, Global Youth Day gives our young people a chance to socialize, to serve in their local communities in order that they might lead people to Jesus. In fact, whenever we hold Global Youth Days, we need to make sure that there's a redemptive aspect of it. In other words, something within that initiative needs to be leading people to Jesus so that they can make a decision in response to the kind acts that are being done.
Through Christ's method, we have a step-by-step guide with which we can share the gospel with others. By mingling with people, showing them sympathy, ministering to their needs, winning their confidence, and bidding them to follow Jesus, we can follow Christ's example in bringing people into God's kingdom.
There's a lot of vibe that goes with it. There's a lot of energy that goes with it, excitement, creativity, and all these things coming together, they really help our young people to believe in themselves and to get excited about sharing the word. And when they do that, they're lifting up Jesus.
Each year, young people all over the world use that excitement to reach out to their communities. Every Global Youth Day features practical themes youth can use to impact people's lives in hands-on ways.
This year's theme is another wonderful theme that just encourages our youth and young adults to adopt. You can adopt a prisoner, take care of them, visit them. You can adopt a patient, take care of them, see them out of the hospital, establish a relationship. It's about connection. You can adopt, a senior person, a senior citizen. You can adopt a stray cat. You can adopt a stray dog. Show love, show kindness. Such things show the character of our religion and the character of our faith, so that when people see us in action, they perceive that we are people of the word and people of action.
He has given us an incredible responsibility, a purpose in this life, and that is to share the good news of Jesus with as many people as we possibly can.
It's an event that brings many people together, and it becomes a success because we are all involved, hence total youth involvement and total department involvement and total member involvement. And it's exciting to see what can be when people are united for one cause, to glorify Jesus and get our young people in the forefront. Trust them with responsibility, trust them with creativity, trust them with giving them the time and the day to show the acts of Jesus Christ.
Please consider how you can take part in this year's Global Youth Day. No matter your age, you have a role in sharing the good news of Jesus. Pray that every generation in the church works together to fulfill God's mission.
Watch this and other mission stories online by visiting adventistmission.org. Then click on videos at the top.
Many times we hear amazing missionary stories and wonder how we can get involved.
Today, our brand new social media correspondent, Victoria Turrentine, is here to share how you can get involved in service.
Have you ever felt called to serve but didn't know how? Have you ever wanted to serve but didn't know where to look? Well, here's how. Adventist Volunteer Services allow you to serve anywhere in the country, Africa, Asia, the Caribbean, Latin America, and the South Pacific. Just visit AdventistVolunteers.org. They will tell you what types of opportunities are available and who can serve. Assignments can range from short-term to long-term, 1 day to 2 months, or 2 months to 2 years or longer. All you have to do is create an account. Click on the tab Contact Us at the top of the page. Then under Volunteers, click the link that says Click Here to start your application process. You will also need to send an email to the division you currently reside in. You can also check out their Facebook page. Just type Adventist Volunteer Service in the search engine and see all the wonderful projects they have done in the past. Also, you can stay updated on the latest missionary callings. It's your time to say yes to God.
And finally, for today's episode, let's turn to David Trim for a look at Adventist history.
This week, a new university opens up in Kenya.
Welcome to This Week in Adventist History. January 20, 1980 was the first day of classes at the University of Eastern Africa, Baraton, in Kenya. There were just 20 students, but today the university has 2,250 students an international faculty and is particularly strong in the social sciences. In fact, we in the Office of Archives, Statistics and Research worked closely with a research team at Baraton that implemented in Africa the last 2 global surveys of church members, in which 26,500 African church members were surveyed. In this photo, you see some of the 15,800 questionnaires returned to Baraton as part of the most recent survey last year. On January 27, 1972, Maybelle Henrietta Sterling died in Sydney, Australia, aged 83. Born Maybelle Klopfenstein in 1888 in the US state of Ohio, in June 1908 she wed George Sterling, a young minister from Michigan, and 3 weeks after their marriage they left as missionaries, sailing from San Francisco for the islands of the South Pacific. These were then remote and fever-ridden islands. Many Adventist missionaries died or contracted fatal illnesses there. But Maybelle and George served 3 decades in Pacific Island mission fields, where their only daughter, Bernita, was born. 25 years of the Sterling service were in the French-ruled Society Islands and Marquesas Islands, for most of which George was the mission president. They faced fierce opposition from the French colonial authorities and settlers, and yet they won both French and indigenous converts. George and Maybelle's joint ministry ended with 13 years in education and pastoral work in New Zealand and northern New South Wales in Australia, where they retired in 1951. This photograph shows Maybelle and George in the 1950s. They had enjoyed just 1 furlough to the United States in 1922-23, after which they never saw their families again. Going as missionaries was, in a sense, a life sentence, but it was one Maybelle and George Sterling embraced joyfully and successfully. That was this week in Adventist history.
Thanks for watching ANN. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
We'd love to hear from you. Send us your feedback and tell us how your church is making a difference in its community.
Be sure to capture plenty of video footage and photos, then write up a summary of the event's important details. And feel free to send full video reports as well.
You can reach us by sending an email to annvideo11@gmail.com.
Before we say goodbye, here's some good news from the book of Ezekiel, chapter 34, verse 11 and 12.
The passage says, "For thus says the Lord God, Behold, I myself will search for my sheep and will seek them out. As a shepherd seeks out his flock when he is among his sheep that have been scattered, so will I seek out my sheep, and I will rescue them from all places where they have been scattered on a day of clouds and thick darkness."
That's our program for this week. And remember, you can always visit news.adventist.org for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.
Take care.